Carla. Nice to see you. Hello and good morning. The anti-fur campaigners are once again on the march, just as you thought that it was safe to go back out on the streets in your fur. This week, 2 people were arrested during a demonstration in London, and a new cinema advertisement has been launched to try to convince people that the fur trade is cruel and unnecessary. Does that influence you in whether or not you wear fur, Mandy?
Not at all. I love my fur and I will wear it wherever, and no one will stop me. That doesn't affect me, not in the slightest.
You sound as if you're quite determined not to be influenced by it.
No, I'm not, because I just don't even watch them half the time. I'd rather not even watch them.
Oh, because they might affect you?
No, not at all. I've always wanted a fur, I've got one, and I'm going to wear it.
What's your fur?
Mink.
Does it affect you?
Yes, I think so. I think, well, campaigns in general affect. They actually, you know, increase people's awareness.
Obviously don't.
No, but they do. Well, then she hasn't been watching them. Do you go to the cinema?
Well, she has just seen it. We've all just seen it.
I've watched them before, but that doesn't interest me.
But you're so determined not to be interested, then you've switched off on the whole thing.
Nothing is going to stop me wearing my fur. Not at all. Nothing at all.
Annette?
Well, I don't necessarily think that I think that's shock tactics and intimidation, and I don't think it's showing the whole picture. I think it's showing one aspect of the picture, which those people want to see. But
I think people want to know what's going on, actually. What goes on behind the scenes, how the fur is made, how it's produced.
But that's the same with any product. I mean, if you're talking about meat, if you did an ad like that for meat, you'd probably never eat meat again.
Many people knew went on in the meat trade, in the meat industry, then they wouldn't eat meat. How
we don't know what goes on, do we? So we still eat it.
But should you know? Hang on, what's the time?
There were just no campaigns to do it, or at least the campaigns that are pro-meat. But if there's an anti-fur campaign, then it's bound to at least raise the issue of programmes like this. I mean,
hang on, Ingrid, go on. You're answering.
But listen, there've been campaigns before about anti-fur, and they don't always work. So I think if people want to wear them, they should be allowed to wear them. If people don't agree with them, that's fine. But I don't think they should give anybody else any hassle.
Do campaigns work, Henry? Do campaigns work?
I'd like to say just a word or two about that thing. The lady has her boa removed and she ends up wearing what looks like a skinned rabbit around her neck. In a restaurant, a skinned rabbit would usually end up on the plate with a mustard sauce.
Yeah, but we know that, Henry, but that's making a point, isn't it? That's making a point that behind that beautiful thing around that glamorous woman's neck is an animal. Yeah.
It's an animal.
That's a fair point to make.
Just an animal that you might eat. Why don't they pull her shoes off to reveal a couple of pig's trotters?
Well, they may well do that as well. But what we're talking about at the moment is whether a campaign like that influences people and works. Does it actually...
The only honest thing about that commercial is the fact that the agency didn't charge a fee. At least they know value for money when they see it.
It shows their commitment, doesn't it, Carol?
Yes, there was tremendous commitment to that advertisement for respect for animals. Everyone gave their services for free because they were horrified at the cruelty of the fur trade. And campaigning does work. I've been associated with 2 groups now campaigning in Britain against the fur trade, Links and Respect for Animals. Links started campaigning in 1985, and since that time, public opinion in Britain has changed. 8 out of 10 people are now against the fur trade. Fur shops have closed down all over the country, more than 70%, and government statistics show that fur sales by British manufacturers have declined from £61 million in 1985 to £9 million last year. So consumers are listening. These advertisements do work, and if people want to end the fur trade, they need to give their support to Respect for Animals.
Well, they're not working this year because fur sales were up by about 30% last year on the year before, and
which was a very bad year. Which was a very bad year. So 30%.
This year, it's 30% up again. And,
but they're still not up to previous levels.
No, I do think.
Well, but let's get this clear,
campaigns do work. Yes, I think.
Hang on. Is it? Do you think? Is it the campaigns that are leading to the decrease in the overall? I mean, whether Henry says it's increased 30% this year and last year was 30% on the other, but the sales are still lower today than they were 3, 4, 5 years ago.
Yes, but are you going to single out the fur trade as sales have decreased? I mean, whatever, there's been a world recession, everything has decreased. It's not the only business that's gone down.
Oh, it's the recession.
It's the recession.
It's not. I'm not saying it's just the recession, but you can't honestly just say that it's the fur trade that suffered.
Of course not.
I would like to challenge the fur trade to produce their statistics, because they go on every single year since 1985, the fur trade has said that fur sales have increased. But government statistics show that it's decreased from 61 million to 9 million.
It's extremely,
Hang on.
it's extremely difficult to prove statistics, because fur is no longer being sold through the old recognised farriers and fur shops. It's now being sold in department stores and boutiques as trimmings, and those statistics don't appear anywhere.
Is it fashionable too? Is it fashion that's led to the decline, do you think?
I think that people just don't want to wear anything that's cruel. I mean, every year millions of fur-bearing animals are trapped, beaten to death, drowned in the wild. And on fur farms, every year, animals are electrocuted anally, they are strangled or gassed. This is what happens before someone puts on a fur coat.
Okay,
it's unheard of to do anything like this.
And we'll talk about whether or not it's cruel and the aspects of cruelty. What we're asking at the moment is, does a campaign like the one we've just witnessed, does it actually influence and affect people? And we have different views on that.
Yeah, it does.
We're asking,
It does.
and whether or not campaigns in general have led to, or is it the recession, or is it just changes in women's fashion that they have an instinct for different clothes now?
Has a lot to do
Yeah,
with it.
go on. Sorry.
Yeah, well, I mean, the fashion at the moment is to wear fur, obviously, and this is actually a fake fur. So the whole point is, if you're going to wear fur, why not wear fake?
Because you notice the difference between a fake fur and a real fur. To look at's fine, but if you touch it, you know the difference.
Yeah, no, but I mean,
I'm
it's
sorry.
just a coat, isn't it? I mean,
It's
you're wearing that.
I'm sorry, I bought my coat 4 years ago.
What's your coat?
My coat's a wild mink.
How much?
I brought it in Greece and I paid under £300. The animal was already dead. Whether you like it or not, I bought it, I'm wearing it, and it's not going to go out of fashion as far as I'm concerned. It's not cruel. It's not walking. It was already dead.
Hang on, one at a time.
How did
No, please.
Well, it was dead before I even decided to buy the bloody thing.
What did you say?
No, it didn't die because of me. I had no intention when I went on holiday to buy the coat.
Hang on. I'm not. No. My love. What we do care about is a civilised conversation, which is fair, and in which everybody gets to the opportunity to air their point of view. How much does fashion play a role, do you think, in whether or not women are wearing fur today? In fact, is there now a fashion for fur? Where it's the trimmings that our friend over there was talking about, or the £300 mink coats from Greece?
Well, I mean, fashion, as far as I'm concerned, fashion with women, wearing it around the areas that we see in everyday life, coming on the buses, on the tubes, they're wearing fur. It's the fear.
More now.
It's the fear. Campaigns like that, they're trying to frighten people. They splat them with paint, and it's the fear that is put into these people. It's still a fashionable item. I want to promote it as a fashion item.
I feel that the actual campaigns that were working hard against wearing of natural furs helped my mother's death by virtue of that.
Help to what? Cause it?
Yes, because she'd saved up all her life to buy a coat, a fur coat, and...
Hang on.
Don't interrupt, please. And what she'd done, she'd
Let me just stop you there. I'm not going to let go away from you. I want to know why my friend there, when he said his mother has spent all her life saving up for a fur coat, you went, in that rather kind of supercilious patronising. Why?
It's sympathy.
It's not, it's a fact. It's a fact, isn't it? Why is he asking for sympathy? He's telling the truth. He's telling about his mother, his experience.
No, I'm not trying to get sympathy.
Whether we agree with what she did or not, that was what she did.
Okay, come in. Okay. So all I'd like to say in that respect is that she'd bought it several years before the campaign started. We can appreciate that it does have an effect on people. It did on her because it frightened and made her very nervous, and she never ever wore it out in the street at all. And unfortunately she died 4 years ago now, and she never had actually the pleasure of that coat, and she was actually saving it as a hedge against inflation, that eventually she'd have to have repairs done to her bungalow, and for whatever else she needed in life.
Why should we make people that get to that point that his mother is so afraid that there was her, whatever you think of her, or him, or the fur, that was one of her ambitions. Perfectly, for her, normal, reasonable, respectable, lawful ambition to own a fur. And then do we justify somebody like that getting to the state that she can't go out into the street because she's so afraid of how she'll be intimidated or abused or vilified or talked to?
She obviously doesn't know the facts behind the fur coat I mean, otherwise she wouldn't...
Are you afraid,
Exactly.
Peter? Are you afraid, Peter?
I've been attacked twice wearing my coat. I mean, I live in the Liverpool area.
Let's have a look at your coat.
It's a Timberwolf. And I bought it 16 years ago.
Should you put it on the floor
16
like that?
years ago. Yes, I throw it on the floor. Yeah. But you see, what annoys me about this campaign
Stand up and
business,
wear it.
we've
Stand
just
up.
been in a room having a coffee.
Stand up.
We've
Stand
just
up and have a look at this coat.
Right, I'll put it on.
What's your cord from the...
No. She keeps saying shame. We have just been... There's the coat.
Yeah, OK, go on. You sit down. You sit down. It's all right. It's a microphone going all right. You're going to get strangled. And some people will cheer.
The lady said about campaign. Let me tell you what just happened backstage. Before we came here, nobody would come and talk to anybody with a fur coat because they felt ashamed and they felt angry that we had fur coats on. They wouldn't talk to us. That was the perfect excuse to talk to us. I have been beaten up twice. Once in Manchester, once in Liverpool, wearing a fur coat. Now, that will make me wear it even more. I wouldn't buy a fur coat these days. Yes, that did affect me, but I wouldn't. I just, on my radio show last night, I just asked out of curiosity, how many fur coats? 300 people had fur coats. This was just in a short space of time. 50 wore them. 250 were terrified of going out. I just did that last night, knowing I was coming here.
I hope you told me you were coming here. Should he be afraid?
We can't talk to people like that. They don't listen. They're so hard. That's why they... Can I finish, please? That's why they cannot... That's why we...
People don't... Hey, Percy, Percy, please. Just, no, hang on. No, come on. Well, none of us will get a chance to speak if you all shout at the same... Yes, of course you are, my love.
Please. In the age of slavery, there were people that said, we have the right to have slaves, and there are those that opposed them. In the same way, you have no more right, you have the power, but you have no more right to take the skins of animals that have died in agony. And you don't look beautiful. Women do not look beautiful. Let me finish, please. Let me finish. Women do not look beautiful.
15 years ago, we all bought them. There are thousands of them.
Can I finish? Women do not, anyone does not look beautiful in fur coats. They look grotesque. They are marked as persons. They are marked as persons of callousness who have no feeling for the suffering of poor, defenceless creatures.
We're not making speeches.
Well, I can't get my word in.
But you are, love. We're talking to each other, or we're trying to...
Anthea.
I think... No, hang on a minute, please.
I keep interrupting me, so I had to shout. Well, I feel very angry at this.
I think the opposite is true. I think that people are attacked for wearing fur coats because they not only look very splendid, but they do look as if they're a little bit showing off. So therefore, it is absolutely super to go up to someone that you think looks as if they're showing off and you're a bit jealous of, and argue with them on the highest possible moral grounds. And if you're jealous in someone of a Mercedes, you may want to say, you know, I don't like you and I don't like your bloody car, but you can't say 12 beautiful animals died to make your Mercedes. And it's so lovely to go up to someone like you who looks very fine and, you know, with your jewellery and all, and have a go at you on a
You're talking about Peter?
The man in the wolf.
Yeah, the man in the wolf. Yeah.
The man in the wolf. And it's wonderful to have a go at him, because basically he makes you feel jealous.
Oh, so that's
but
what it's a class
jealousy.
and an envy thing, Carla.
Yes, and they asked for it. Can I make another final point?
Please. Please, no, you can't all speak at once. No, please, go. Oh, come on. Go on, love.
I do think it's the kind of coat, because I used to wear jumble sale coats and nobody had to go to it. It's true, it was too early. But I've got a coat not as fine as that, but a wolf like that, and I just feel a horrible show-off in it, and I don't like
Carla,
it anymore.
it's envy and it's class snobbery.
Now, I think the lady is undermining...
No, please, no, you've got to stop.
I think she's undermining those of us who are here on behalf of the animal. I certainly don't feel jealous about people with fur coats, and I don't think many people do really feel that jealous, and those who do don't attack them. They just talk about them. What we must be very careful about is campaigning does work, but we must not bully people, and we must hide our passions, and it's very hard. We mustn't say to somebody, and I'm afraid this lovely lady who is very passionate will shout, shame, shame. I don't think that is our way. What we must do is gently show these people how these animals are caught, how they're killed, and how, by wearing the skins of these animals, they're lining the pockets of rich, evil men.
Is it cruel, then?
This is important.
Is it cruel?
Of course it's cruel. anything is cruel when an animal lies in a trap for God knows how long, chewing his own leg off to try and get away, and then somebody in a big boot comes along and gently squeezes his last breath out of him. Don't touch the fur, because that's where our money is. So we kill the animal more cruelly to save the fur. It cannot be condoned in this day, in this country.
It's cruel.
I would just like to say about that, if you come from a country that has an indigenous people who have trapped all their lives, where do you then draw the line? We've got a situation in northern Canada where people have bought furs, certainly. They've turned around and then told Eskimo people that they should be wearing nylon, which isn't very good in cold weather. They should be wearing wool, which is no use at all in the snow. Is it any better that Eskimos trap, or are you just talking about the trapping, the cruel trapping that you see on films such as the one we've just seen?
I'm not against people who live in a country where the indigenous trapping goes on. They have always done that. But what is so wrong is when the Westerners go in, the fur traders, who say to these men who've never seen as much as a pound in their life, you know, I will give you so much if you'll go out and trap these animals. And they make money out of them. People in Canada who trap animals for food, or for those reasons, you can't blame them. That is something different. It's the fur trade, and they corrupt these people.
I agree they do corrupt to a certain extent, but we have the problem now of Eskimo people having been told that this is not the right thing to do because it's cruel, so they stopped doing it. Now they haven't got the furs they need, so they've now gone full circle, and they're now back to buying from the fur trade to give them the clothing that they actually need. Nobody says it's cruel when an Eskimo does it, but they suddenly scream bleeding hearts when somebody else is doing it on behalf of the fur trade.
Is it cruel, Carol?
The fur trade is very cruel. I've brought along a trap, just to talk about the cruelty of trapping. It's actually the trapping, it's the trapping season at the moment in the USA, the main trapping country. This is a steel-jawed leg-hold trap. It's the main trap used. We banned these in Britain in 1958 because they're so barbaric. What happens is when it's set, these jaws are open, the animal comes along, it steps in onto this pan, the jaws close around its leg.
The jaws would be wide.
Would be wide,
and they're
that's
jagged.
right.
Can we do that, or is that going to be dangerous for you? No, don't do it then. No, okay. Yeah.
And then the animal steps in, and then it's caught by the leg until the trapper comes along.
What animals are we talking about?
We're talking about wolves, we're talking about lynx, we're talking about foxes, beavers, we're talking about raccoons, this is a main trap, it's a preferred trap for trappers for as many species. And it's very unselective. If it's open, what happens is the first thing that steps into it is caught. They have cats and dogs that are caught by accident, endangered species as well. It's a very cruel device. So what we're trying to do is to get this trap banned, to get all trapping stopped.
You were looking very unimpressed when Carol was going through.
Well, there are farmed animals as well.
Yes.
And also, what happened when Harrods closed their fur salon down? They didn't have a fur coat left. They were all sold. So somebody must have bought them, and people must be wearing them.
Farmed animals?
Yes,
we don't have to trap them, do we, Elliot?
No, but I've made a very close study of the farm animal trade in this country, which I'm glad to say has been declining. But nevertheless, farming itself is very cruel. It's caging animals which naturally live in wide open spaces like mink and Arctic fox. Mink are in cages where they haven't got room to stand up in. Arctic fox are kept in cages where they can't exhibit natural behaviour. It has been widely condemned by independent bodies like the Farm Animal Welfare Council. And of course, at the end, well, at the killing season, which is round about now, those animals, mink, are either injected or they have their necks broken, or more commonly put in a box attached to a car motor where they're gassed by carbon monoxide. They live in some misery, they show signs of stress, and this is independent scientific advice. And in the end, what's it for? Simply to satisfy people's vanity. And we don't think that can be justified, and the Labour Party will certainly stop it.
But you've got farmed poultry, you've got farmed fish, and even pearls are farmed.
Now, the difference is, as I say, Fur farming is just for vanity. It's not an essential.
Well, it isn't
it's
just
not
for
for food. It's just for vanity.
It isn't just for vanity, it's also for warmth. Excuse
No,
me,
there are many alternatives that you can use. The question you have to ask is that with this society, does it need fur? Do you have to actually have fur, either wild caught or indeed farmed? And the answer is no. There are alternatives. It's not essential, and you cannot justify the cruelty to the animals involved.
Excuse me, I have an illness, and it's an incurable illness called lupus. And I suffer from very bad circulation, and nothing gives me the warmth of fur.
It
is true. Nylon doesn't give you the warmth of fur.
Let Ingrid come in. Ingrid?
The Arctic expedition that went away 2 years ago, that was on television everywhere, used thin-sulate or polygod 2. We now have man-made fibres that are far more warm, they're lighter weight, they don't get damp, they don't stink the way fur coats
No, but
do.
they're polluting the air.
Oh, as for pollution, you know, if you make a fur coat, if you make, let me just say this, if you make a fur coat, it is not any more natural. If an animal dies, his body disintegrates into the woods. Once you have treated the decomposing corpse with anti-mortants and chemicals and all this stuff, it is no longer natural. It doesn't go back into the environment. You can throw it out of your window and it'll sit there.
No, it won't.
So,
it will eventually rot.
Oh,
Fur
yes,
coats
but we won't be
do
alive
rot.
to see it.
Right, but nylon and plastic and everything is environmentally unfriendly, isn't it?
There has actually been a study about that with BTUs. Fur is far more environmentally destructive than natural fibres. Ford Motor Company did a study. I'd be happy to give you a copy of it.
Ingrid, don't give me the whole book. You were campaigning this week outside Harrods with no clothes on, with the banners saying that you'd rather go naked, was your expression, than wear furs. And you were one of them that was naked in this cold weather. We must show some commitment, I suppose. Does that campaign not just apply to animals that are trapped in the traps that Carol has just been showing, but to farmed animals as well?
I've walked the lines on the rows of animals kept on fur farms, and I can tell you that these are not domesticated animals. They're wild, and they don't do well in captivity. They go nuts. You see animals like foxes just banging themselves, going round and round in circles. And when their young are born, they're taken away, and they're either genitally electrocuted, anally electrocuted, or they have these other unsavory things done to them. If we care about animals at all, if we've ever had a dog we love or a cat we love, we can't say, don't show me, I don't want to hear, I'll buy this coat regardless. We have to be grown up, we have to be responsible, we have to be moved.
Farms.
I'm quite convinced that no mink coming out of a mink farm would be worth, its pelt would be completely ruined if it was a very unhappy animal. And the mink farms, I'm sure, would go out of business because the first sign of an unhappy animal is that its coat deteriorates.
Carla?
I think what we all have to accept here is where man is with animal in the business of making money, there is cruelty.
Absolutely. Yes, but we live in a very tough world. I mean, we
Well,
suddenly decided that human
why
beings are extremely cruel, and the whole world is full of stories about the cruelty of man. So we see animals as these innocent bystanders that we manipulate.
I don't understand what you mean by saying that we live in this tough world and
it is
therefore
a
we
tough
must be cruel
world, and
to
it's a
animals.
tough world in the animal world.
The reason the world is tough.
Hang on, one at a time. Let Carla finish.
The reason the world is as tough and as awful as it is because we have not learned to respect these other creatures. Each one play an absolute magnificent role in keeping our planet together. We don't respect them. That's why we're tough. We don't know what to respect.
I personally think that the animal world is a much tougher one than you'd care to see.
It's a
and you see
sensible
animals
one.
as being these very sensitive, feeling things, and of course they have feelings. No one would ever deny that. But the fact is that their emotions are grossly exaggerated by human beings, I think, and they take on an anthropomorphic.
Somebody has to stick
I know. I want somebody else into the conversation.
First of all, I believe it's totally unnecessary for anyone in the UK to wear a fur. Second of all, we may be able to successfully eradicate fur production and the wearing of fur, not only in this country, but Europe itself. But what happens then? It comes up, mushrooms up, somewhere else in the third world where they want the industry, where they're not ashamed to work in a factory, where they need employment. And that is what's happening now. Harrods got rid of their fur department, right? Because they wanted to be politically correct. And people sometimes are not doing things for genuine feelings. It's because they want to look clean. So it went very quietly to production in Korea. The Japanese love furs. We all know in the Far East their attitude to animals is not as humanitarian as ours. So what then? How are you going to come to a world...
Excuse me.
I could go... How does one tackle the problem then?
I can go along with the lady in the front and her arguments because they're logical.
Carla.
Yes, this other lady, I'm sorry, she says that because we're wearing furs, we're totally uncaring human beings. I rescued 2 dogs from other human beings, so-called caring human beings.
Hang on.
Pardon?
A speciesist. A
Well, you can
speciesist.
give me,
Oh my
you can
God,
give
that's
me
a new one.
stupid
Don't
labels,
start.
whatever you like.
Hang on,
But I
hang
just
on.
feel you have your prerogative to think what you feel. I have mine, and I don't think you've got the right to come up to me in Oxford Street, Regent Street, Bond Street, wherever you like, and disfigure or throw stuff over me.
I've never done that, but I've got the right. If I see these are coats of cruelty, that's what I call
This
it. You've
came
got
from
your
Dr. Bernardo's.
I
This
don't
was
care
£8. This piece was £1. It cost me £9 in toto, and I gave my money to charity. Fine.
To recycle a fur, then kill the fashion of
Hang on.
cruelty.
Let me get somebody else. Come on. I want somebody else. I want somebody who speaks. I want somebody who speaks quietly and says, like Carla, quietly, sensibly. I hope I've got the right one.
I'll try. I'm just very interested to know what's the difference between wearing the skins off those 2 dogs that you rescued and that
Well, quite frankly, if it was that people did and my dogs died and their skins were available for me to wear, I'd be quite happy to wear them.
Those animals, you see, they didn't just die. They were killed for the coat. That's the difference. Would you kill a dog?
I wouldn't deliberately kill my dog to make a coat out of him. No, that's obvious. But all I feel that these were garments who belonged to some little old lady somewhere. I've recycled them and some money has gone into Dr. Bernardo's.
But a cruel death has created them.
No, I've got somebody else talking, please. Oh, you're going to ask a question quietly. You promise?
Promise.
On your honour?
On my honour, I'll ask quietly. If that coat came directly from an animal that had been, 40 animals had been trapped and suffered agonising deaths, would you bought that
I wouldn't be
coat?
happy about it. Obviously not.
Are there alternatives, do you think, to this? If we find out that the farm animals are also cruelly treated or inhumanely? What's the word, Carla? Inhumanely.
Inhumanely.
I was thinking, are there alternatives, do you think?
I think there are many alternatives. I mean, I don't think you have to look smart in order to wear a fur coat, or you don't necessarily look smart if you wear one. And there's so many alternative clothing methods available now. And a fake fur is not necessarily an alternative. It's not a question of one or another. You go into any department store and there's a wide variety of clothes that where no animal cruelty has
Okay,
been
let's look at some alternatives. We've got some models here who are wearing fur and fake fur. Come on down, girls, and Paul, and let's see what you're wearing. Do you know the difference? Yeah. Yes, everybody shouts yes. Do you know the difference? Which is the fake? Come on, tell me which is the fake.
I really couldn't. I really couldn't tell you.
You can't tell?
No.
Okay. Does anybody not? Do the men not know? Do you know?
Yeah, I think so. I think the one on the far left is real.
Say yes or no. It's real, right? Go on.
That one's fake.
Which one's fake?
The next one's fake.
The next one's fake. Well, hang on, the fella's agreeing here.
Yeah.
Oh, hang on.
I would say the black and white one, the girl
Joe, the
third away
nearest
from
one
me.
to it. Oh, the girl for the
looks-
leopard type thing.
Yeah, it looks fake because the length of the fibres just looks too uniform.
Okay, you're going. Hang on, no, hang on, Elliot. You're going along with that.
Yeah, I go along with that. I think.
Which is the real one then? What about this
I'd
end
say
that Joe's wearing?
I'd say it goes
the closest one,
real,
I think, is real.
fake, fake, real.
Real?
No.
So from our
real,
area.
real, fake, real, fake.
Okay.
Yeah.
Can we give a microphone to give it to Paul? Can we get another microphone on? Because I can speak to Joe. Joe, are you wearing real or fake? Pardon?
I
thought it was real.
The real, the 2 ones at the end are real. And the middle ones, the one on the left of the middle
Hang on,
is
say it
definitely
again.
fake.
Say it again.
It looks like a dead animal sitting on her head.
On Joe?
On this last one here.
Okay, hang on. Let just a moment.
She looks like she's carrying a dead animal, and she looks like she has a dead animal on
Joe?
her head.
Well, it doesn't
No, I want
feel
Joe to
like
speak. Come on.
It doesn't feel like it, actually. I mean, I
Please.
don't wear real furs in real life, but this is my job, so if they tell me to wear it, I will wear it. But what I will say is that
What are you
I'm
wearing,
fed up
Joe?
of being hoodwinked into not being able to wear it. If I want to wear it, I would wear it. It just so happens I wouldn't.
I think that everybody...
I think the only word in there is victimisation. We should not be victimised at all.
Okay, Joe, what are you wearing then? What is it?
Well, this, I don't actually know. I think it's silver fox. But if I wouldn't normally wear it in real life, but if I, if it's a job, then I'll wear it, and that's it.
Paul, what are you wearing?
I think it's mink.
What do you mean you think it's mink?
I don't know.
Is it real?
It's my job as well. I just do it as a profession.
Okay, can you do a Killroy on the next model and ask her what she's wearing?
I'm wearing a really fake fur.
And the next. Come on, Paul.
I don't know.
You don't know?
No, it's real.
Percy?
Yeah, that's real fox.
Is that...
Dyed fox.
Tell me the value of them, Percy.
Oh, they're not... This coat here, I would say that's...
Paul's wearing?
Paul's, I would say that's probably in the region of around £4,500, £5,000.
Yeah.
The hat's probably about £400 or £500.
Yeah.
The muff would be about another £400 or £500.
Mm. What about the fake in the middle?
The fake would be about £400 or £500, I imagine. Three to five. It depends who designed it. It depends on the... Some designer names like Vivienne Westwood get higher prices.
Because of the label.
Because of the label, you see.
Okay, lads, fellas, girls, if you don't mind.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, go on, while they're there. You still want to talk?
I'm very glad that that's a fake, because the fur trade has brought spotted cats to the edge of extinction, along with many other animals, so I'm very pleased that is a fake.
Absolute rubbish.
That's the fact.
No.
They're an endangered species, spotted cats, and the fur trade was the main reason behind that.
No, hold on. If that's the problem,
the fur trade
Henry, if they're fake, if you could tell the fake so obviously and so clearly, thank you. If you'd like to... I don't want to get rid of you, it's just that we can't get any cameras in. If they...
Yes.
Go on, let's see what you...
Some models, and I understand people have to do things for a living, but some models can take heart. Christy Turlington just posed nude for an ad, I'd rather go naked than wear fur. And a lot of models are saying, no, we won't model it anymore. It's like ivory, we won't sell ivory. There's certain things that are beyond the pale, and fur is now beyond the pale.
Where are we? Wait a minute, what are we talking about?
Well, Christy Turlington is one of the top models around. I mean, those guys really can't afford to pick and choose. It comes down to that sort of thing as well.
There are some, though, who are really joining together, and when they join together, they're forceful, and they tell an industry exactly what they will and won't do, and they move the industry just as we do as consumers. So they can live
but it's still just their choice.
If we're saying, at one level, people are arguing that, well, you don't have to have fur. It doesn't have to be real, that's trapped in a cruel way. It doesn't have to be one that's farmed inhumanely. It can be a fake. And yet everybody here knew, except the fellas, well, even they did really, knew which the fake was. It isn't an alternative then, is it?
Well, it doesn't really matter if there's an alternative or not. I mean, it's a perfectly nice-looking code.
Yeah.
I mean, what do you...
But it's not something that would attract you.
What's the point of copying a fur? If you really like a fur, wear a fur. Why wear a fake?
Well, because a fake is not cruel. And a fake, you still get the look. If that's what you want, personally, I don't think that it's a particularly good look. But if you like that look...
Fake looks...
No,
doesn't look as good.
Fur is not a good look.
Carla, if we're talking like this, if we're saying we're not going to wear fur for whatever warmth, attraction, clothing, whatever, and we're not going to farm them, where do we start drawing the line in our use of animals?
In our use of animals?
Yeah.
Oh, animals are so abused so often for so many things that it's hard to know where to begin. I'm amazed that ladies here can discuss whether or not it looks real. What the hell does it matter whether it looks real? Are you wearing your...
Hold on, don't shout, don't shout!
Are you wearing your fur coat just to prove to us all that it's real? What is behind it?
I'm coming back to you.
Sorry.
You said before that you bought that coat because the animal was already dead.
Yes,
you
right.
can't use that excuse. The reason the animal you bought was dead was because people bought others before you. And as long as you buy anything, you proliferate the trade. It will carry on.
But you're talking about that coat, which you said was fake. I grew up with one which was real. It was a real fur on the carpet. So I know automatically what is real and what isn't.
What difference does
And you can
it
see the difference. If you're going to make a fake, make it a good fake so you can see the difference.
So you can't see the difference.
So you can't see the difference, sorry.
Go on. Hold on, please. I can only take one at a time. Go on.
I just think it comes down to one simple thing. Animals were put on this earth for us to eat and us to wear. that's the bottom line. Carol?
I'd just like to say that society
Hang on, Carol,
has
I'm with you.
started to draw a line on the use
she's
of
talking.
animals. We have actually banned internationally sealing. We've banned internationally the ivory trade. We've banned commercial whaling. Now, the fur trade is the last abuse of wild animals, which needs banning. So let's all act now and let's get a ban.
I agree with that woman there, because I'm wearing a fur coat. I'm the only man here with a fur coat, and I think apart from the Wolfman
The
there.
Wolfman.
And I don't wear mine by choice. This coat was to be dumped in a dustbin, and by a person who had murdered my brother with a knife. And I got this coat sitting here in front of you. And as I look at this coat, and I look at...
this was some kind of recompense or apology? The coat was part of a...
My brother went, and this knife, I want it to be as horrific as I seen him on the slab. This knife was about that length, about 18 inches. It went right through and spewed his spine and a lot, and the backbone and everything. Killed him. All because he was trying to save an old man and an old woman from being ridiculed crossing the road. Now... But
nothing to do with fur.
It was funny. Yes, it has. It has.
All right.
Yes, yes. That this coat here belonged to the woman that did it with this other fella. She was accomplice. And she ran and threw that knife in the river. And I was applying to be Bud Flanagan on Stars in Their Eyes, as you can see. Well, this woman gave me this coat. Well, when she offered me this coat, I took it because I thought, well, all the little animals that's been killed to make this coat. And my brother had to leave his cubs behind. There's a lot of little cubs here on my back. And I feel sad about it. Really.
But don't you feel morally awful wearing it? Like, I don't care that they were killed. That really upsets me. But the point is, you're perpetuating it by wearing it. Surely what you should do is burn it.
No.
Why
no,
not?
I won't burn it. Because this woman is going to be punished for me wearing this coat.
Why? How is she punished?
Hang on. She can, every time she sees me now in this coat, she's terrified.
I could never, ever wear a fur coat from the age of...
I think that...
Hang on, let her finish.
I can't wear one because I feel that this is my skin. This is what I wear. That's not my skin. That's like wearing another person's skin.
Carla, how do you think this is all going to end? Are campaigns like the one we see in the cinema, is the kind of the campaigns of the kind that Carol and you have conducted in the past? Are we going to see an end to the way in which animals are treated like this?
Oh, it's hard. I mean, we've got a great brick wall in front of us because it's money, you see. And when you're talking about cruelty, you're talking about money. And I'm afraid money is what everybody wants. And we need a government who will be more sympathetic. Indeed, a government who know what's going on. That would help.
Well, perhaps one day we'll get one. This is our last programme before Christmas. We're back on Tuesday, January the 4th. Have a good Christmas. Take care of yourselves. See you then.